Hey everybody, welcome to Module 15. I'm not John Green, but you will get to see him a couple times in this module as I use a couple of crash course videos. I do a good job of summing things up for the purposes of where we're at here. Module 15, recent events into the 21st century. I'll try to be quick and to the point. Try not to ramble, as my students will tell you. I'm pretty good at that. As a student, my high school students will tell you I'm pretty good at that. And so I'll try to avoid that as much as possible. Get through this quick. The module is set up a little different. Everybody I know is tired, and we're in the semester, and I think we've all felt the grind. So this module, I've just got the PowerPoint that covers the content that parallels the textbook, and then I've got a second PowerPoint that over Missouri Constitution, and that's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to try again. Hey everybody, welcome to Module 15, into the 21st century. I'm not John Green. You will get to see him later in the module. Use a couple of crash course videos. They do a pretty good job of capturing what we need to get captured for stuff in this module. As I said, we're going into the 21st century with this. I want to try to be to the point, not ramble too much, as my high school students will tell you I can do a good job of that. But Module 15 takes us, as I said, into the 21st century. We benchmark that in particular in this module through the presidencies. Some significant events going on in this chapter, very recent events, so we don't have much of a historical perspective as we progress on, as is the case with history, and I think makes history very fascinating as we progress on. As time moves forward, we'll know a lot more about these things than what we know right now. There'll be documents revealed and opened up, and archives opened up, and recordings made available, and just a lot of additional information. So these events are certain to go through reassessments, reappraisals, reevaluations, reinterpretations as we move forward in history. But they are very important, and they do need to be looked at, and we'll try to look at them from a historical perspective as much as we possibly can. So the module, as I said, is kind of benchmarked by the presidents that are featured in it and the corresponding events. And all of these presidents, I think, will be covered significantly in the future in history courses and history textbooks. I think each of them, some presidents only have a paragraph or so about them, and some have entire chapters. And I think these individuals will certainly have entire chapters. A lot of things that have happened, but again, very recent. It's only been 20 years since the end of the Clinton presidency, and for some of you that seems a long time ago, but it's really not that far, especially from a historical perspective. So we'll begin with Bill Clinton and the Clinton presidency. Again, I think is going to be looked at closely in detail. A lot of things occurring during Clinton's presidency. His attempt to reform healthcare, which is not as successful. His the U.S. involvement in events in the former Yugoslavia, which is deemed pretty much a success. But probably the thing that will be most noted about him is his impeachment as the result of the many refer to as the Monica Lewinsky scandal. He was impeached, not removed. The House, it's a two-step process, and the House decided that impeachment, the evidence warranted impeachment. The final step is for the Senate to vote if there's enough evidence to warrant removal, and the vote for that was not attained. So, but he will certainly go down, and in addition, the fact that his wife Hillary goes on to run for the presidency in our most recent election in 2016. So for a lot of reasons, he's going to be a notable person, and the events of his presidency will gain a lot of attention. And he's followed by George W. Bush. And in George W. Bush's first year of presidency, September 11th, 2001. The attacks in the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, the plane that crashes in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, which many believe, and the evidence seems to support, was probably targeting the U.S. Capitol. As devastating as that event was, had they been successful with that, much more devastating in many, many ways, especially on our political system. So Bush's presidency is dominated by the events that followed from that, the as it is referred to, the war on terrorism, our involvement in Iraq, and those things are going to be the seminal events of the Bush presidency, and certainly attract a lot of attention and gain a lot of coverage in future history books. And then he is followed by President Barack Obama, and that again, I think it's obvious he's the first African American president, and it's because of that, and rightfully so, there will be substantial coverage in future history textbooks and future studies of history. It says a lot about our country's history, and it is a notable landmark in our country's history that we reached the point of having an African American in the White House. And I think one of the things that isn't discussed much now, but I think historians may spend some time pursuing, Obama is a very intellectual figure. He's very academically oriented. And it's ironic because I think a lot of parallels can be made between him and Woodrow Wilson, who, as you have learned in this course, had some very strong racial beliefs. But both Wilson and Obama, very cerebral, as I said, very academically oriented, possibly two of the most academically, intellectually oriented presidents that we've had, and both received criticisms for that because many times people felt they were too professorial in their approach and came across as talking down to people. So certainly Obama is going to gain his place in the history textbooks. And then we don't cover the Trump administration, but I want to say a word about that. And like him, not like him, I think a lot of people realize that what is unfolding in our country right now is something that is going to gain substantial attention in the future and study of history. And there is the potential, there's always that potential, but I think it's magnified with the Trump administration that every day when we wake up, there's the potential that there's a headline that may be the headline that is the cover of future books, or the picture featured at the beginning of a chapter in a textbook. There's just so many things going on, and there's the potential that we're being pushed to examine and interpret our constitutional system, I think, in ways that we've never done before. And good or bad, that's going to be defining. So I know that it is a bit wearing, and I get wore down myself, and it's a balance. But I encourage you to stay in tune with what is occurring in our country right now, because this is very truly history unfolding in front of us. Your children, your grandchildren are going to be learning about that, and may possibly be asking you, what do you remember about this event? And that's the case with the Obama presidency. I mean, your children and grandchildren learn about that. They're going to ask you, what do you remember about that? September 11th. For those of you, and most of the individuals, of course, have some memory of that event. Those are going to be things that people are going to be talking about. And it's fascinating about history to me, as I said earlier, the further we progress, the better we understand the events of the past. So as we move on 50, 100, 150 years down from the road from now, what is occurring today? The events of September 11th, the Clinton administration and the controversy there will be much more fully understood than they are today. I'm certain that there are writings, that there's documents, there's recordings, as there always have been with history, that we haven't seen, that will become available to us, that will change our interpretations and change our assessments and help us to better understand. And that's one of the reasons I truly love history, is because I feel like as we study it, we're learning about ourselves. It gives us insights into who we are and why we are who we are. So a very interesting chapter we're in. Module. Very different approach to history because it is so current, and a very fresh view that is a very incomplete view. And that's something I emphasize to you, that what you are getting in this module is a very incomplete view of these events, because we haven't had the time to get the full picture. The module's set up a little different than the others. Again, like I said, everybody's, I think, pretty worn down, tired, and so I am as well. Probably comes through in this video. A couple of PowerPoints, one PowerPoint over the content that corresponds with the chapter, another PowerPoint over Missouri government constitution, and then I've just added some supplemental readings of videos. And I do encourage you, please, as always, pay attention to those. Think about how those could be used in an exam. There are the 2 crash course videos, and they do a pretty good job of giving a big picture, and John Green's pretty entertaining, much more so than me. So I do look at those as well. Again, different chapter, or just a little different perspective with these events being so recent. One last note, also, I meant to put this in my announcement. I am a bit behind on grading. I'm a lot behind on grading, and I apologize for that. And since all I have to do for next week is get the final ready, which is a pretty sizable task, but not as sizable as creating a test and a module. So I'm really hoping to, the next couple days, get some time devoted to grading, because I want you to have as complete a picture of where you're at in the course as possible going into the final. So if possible, I'll try to have everything graded, but if not, as much as I can. Hope you guys enjoy the module. I'll be sending out some text announcements probably between now and next week, just to fill you in about the final and things like that. And as always, if you have questions, concerns, please feel free to email me. And again, a lot of interesting stuff in this module, so I hope you enjoy it and find it interesting.